Number 1. Antonio Perez at Kodak. Here's a fun fact that will make you want to throw your camera into the ocean. Kodak actually invented the digital camera in 1975. Yes, the company that got destroyed by digital photography invented digital photography. That is like inventing fire and then dying in a house fire. Antonio Perez came in as CEO in 2003 and decided the best strategy was to keep selling film while the entire planet was switching to digital. It is like standing in the middle of a burning building and insisting the smoke smell is actually a new candle scent. Perez did eventually pivot to digital, but by then it was too late, like showing up to a party 3 hours after everyone went home and then wondering why nobody is dancing. Kodak filed for bankruptcy in 2012. The company that captured the world's memories could not capture a single working business strategy, and somewhere in a dusty drawer, there is a digital camera prototype from 1975 that has not aged a day. Number 2. Ron Johnson at JCPenney. Ron Johnson had a resume that looked like a golden ticket. He helped create Apple stores, which are basically temples where people willingly spend 4 hours waiting to give away their money. Apple brought him in, he crushed it, and then JCPenney said, "Hey, come fix us." Big mistake. Johnson walked in and decided that JCPenney's customers, people who love coupons more than oxygen, no longer needed coupons. He got rid of sales. He got rid of discounts. He called it fair and square pricing. Customers called it something else entirely, and most of those words cannot be repeated here. Sales dropped by around 30% in his first year. He lasted 17 months. 17 months to lose billions of dollars is actually an impressive rate of destruction if you think about it as a talent. Johnson never actually tested any of his ideas in stores before rolling them out everywhere. He just assumed what worked at Apple would work at JCPenney. Spoiler alert, people buying a $1,000 laptop and people hunting for clearance socks are not the same demographic. Number 3. Leo Apotheker at HP. Leo Apotheker was CEO of HP for 11 months. 11 months. That is barely enough time to learn where the coffee machine is. In that time, he announced HP might exit the personal computer business, which is a little awkward when your entire brand identity is personal computers. He also spent about $10 billion acquiring a software company called Autonomy, which later turned out to have some very creative accounting methods. Creative in the way that fiction is creative. HP wrote off nearly $9 billion from that deal. After he was ousted, the company reportedly spent years in litigation trying to figure out where all the money went. A process that was about as fun as a root canal without the anesthesia. Apotheker walked away with a severance package worth millions, effectively getting paid a small fortune to spend less than a year, making one of the world's most famous tech companies question its own existence. Apotheker was fired, and the board replaced him, and then HP just had to sit quietly in the corner and think about what it had done. Number 4. Steve Balmer at Microsoft. Now before the comment section erupts, yes, Balmer had real wins, but let us talk about the greatest miss in tech history. When the iPhone launched in 2007, Balmer literally laughed on camera. Laughed. He said it would never get significant market share because it had no keyboard. He laughed at the thing that was about to reshape all of civilization. Microsoft then spent years and billions of dollars failing to crack mobile. They bought Nokia for about $7 billion and then wrote most of it off. Balmer also missed social media, missed search, and managed to turn Microsoft into a company that talented engineers actively avoided. To his credit, he did sell a lot of copies of Windows Vista, which is a bit like being proud of selling the most tickets to the worst movie of the year. Number 5. Dick Fuld at Lehman Brothers. Dick Fuld ran Lehman Brothers like it was invincible because apparently nobody sent him the memo that nothing is invincible. Lehman went all in on mortgage-backed securities, the financial world's version of building a house of cards inside a wind tunnel. When the housing market started collapsing in 2008, Fuld reportedly turned down multiple buyout offers. Multiple, as in someone knocked on the door with a lifeboat and he said, "No thank you, I'm going to keep standing on this very sinking ship." Lehman Brothers filed for the largest bankruptcy in American history in September 2008. The collapse helped trigger a global financial crisis. One man's stubbornness had a starring role in wrecking the global economy, but hey, at least he was consistent. Number 6. Gerald Levan at AOL Time Warner. In the year 2000, Gerald Levan looked at AOL, a company whose entire business model was mailing CDs to people, and said, yes, this is who we should merge with. The resulting merger is widely considered one of the worst business decisions in human history, which is a competitive category. Time Warner lost nearly $200 billion in value. The timing was impeccable, occurring just as the dot-com bubble began its spectacular descent into reality. Within 2 years, the company reported a $99 billion quarterly loss, which remains the corporate equivalent of accidentally deleting the entire internet. Levan himself later called it a mistake and said he was responsible. That might be the most understated apology since someone set the Library of Alexandria on fire and said, "My bad." Number 7. Carly Fiorina at HP. HP shows up twice on this list because apparently it enjoys suffering. Fiorina merged HP with Compaq in 2002, a deal that most HP shareholders voted against, which is usually a sign. The merger created a bloated giant that struggled to compete with Dell and IBM. Around 30,000 employees lost their jobs. Innovation slowed down, stock price went down, morale went down. Basically everything went down except Fiorina's confidence, which remained impressively intact throughout. She eventually left with a $21 million severance package, because in the corporate world, crashing a legacy brand into a wall is often rewarded with a golden parachute large enough to cover a mid-sized city. The board fired her via a phone call, which is basically the corporate version of a "it's not me, it's you" breakup text. Number 8. John Scully at Apple. John Scully came from Pepsi, which is famous for being not quite Coca-Cola, and Steve Jobs personally convinced him to join Apple by asking if he wanted to keep selling sugar water or change the world. Great line. Things went poorly anyway. Scully eventually pushed Jobs out of his own company, then proceeded to make a series of strategic choices that brought Apple to the edge of bankruptcy. Under his watch, Apple released the Newton, a device remarkably good at misinterpreting handwriting and remarkably bad at being useful. He also flooded the market with so many Macintosh models that even the seasoned sales reps couldn't tell them all apart anymore. Jobs came back, saved everything, and now Apple is the most valuable company on earth. Scully went back to doing other things. The sugar water comment aged in a very specific way. Number 9. Adam Newman at WeWork. Adam Newman convinced investors that a company renting office space was actually a technology company worth $47 billion, which is an achievement in storytelling that should be studied in universities. WeWork lost money at a rate that was almost artistic. Newman also reportedly charged WeWork a fee to use the word "we," which he had trademarked. His own company paid him for the right to use its own name. He also had a wave pool installed in a company space and conducted meetings while surfing. When WeWork tried to go public and filed its documents, investors read them, and the valuation dropped from $47 billion to about $10 billion, basically overnight. Newman walked away with hundreds of millions of dollars. The company walked away with significantly less. Life is not always fair. Number 10. Travis Kalanick at Uber. Travis Kalanick built Uber from nothing into one of the most recognizable companies on earth, which is genuinely impressive. He also built a workplace culture that became the subject of a devastating internal investigation, featured stories of harassment, questionable ethical decisions, and a general vibe of "we do what we want." He also oversaw the development of Grayball, a software tool designed specifically to trick government regulators, proving that at Uber, disruption was often just a synonym for legal gymnastics. There was a famous video of him arguing aggressively with an Uber driver, which is a special kind of awkward when that driver works for your company. The board eventually asked him to resign in 2017. His exit was less of a gold watch ceremony and more of a staged intervention by investors who had finally run out of patience and earplugs. Kalanick did go on to start another company afterward because in Silicon Valley, consequences are more of a suggestion than a rule, and billion-dollar failures are apparently just a resume line. If you like this video, I'm pretty sure you're going to like this next one too.